Trump just announcing that our own Pete Hegseth will be his Secretary of Defense. Pete, of course, has been a host here at Fox for a number of years. He's an Army veteran where he served in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Trump saying, quote, Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and for the country. He's tough, smart, and a true believer in America first. With Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice. Our military will be great again, and America will never back down. Wow, that is pretty cool. Gosh, we're gonna miss him at Fox, but that's a gain for the country.
And if we don't crusade a holy war, a righteous holy war for freedom, we're not going to save it.
All right, that's Pete Hegseth talking about a Christian holy war and saving America. Let's just consider this holy war. I think it's important to understand with regards to Project 2025 and all the connections right now that are going on. This is what Trump's choice was for the Pentagon, and there's a lot of people that are asking questions. I'll share with you why. But Pete Hegseth and his battle cry for a new Christian crusade. And where does this come from? Well, ancient Rome, the Roman Crusades, where the Romans walked over many people, killed many people, including Christians themselves, who didn't advocate what the papal church was teaching during the Dark Ages. Some things I want to make clear is we don't want to spread any misinformation with regards to Pete Hegseth. I know CNN is telling you that Pete Hegseth was forced out of veteran advocacy groups over misconduct allegations. Well, I think there's more to that, and they're saying that Trump is considering DeSantis possibly over the Hegseth pressure over these allegations. But Hegseth has gotten a letter from a trustee from the veterans group, which is telling them that he left, and he left the post voluntarily. He was not ousted over drinking. He was not ousted over misconduct. They're not necessarily true, at least according to the veterans group. Furthermore, another thing that was happening was that they said Pete Hegseth's mother begged him to get some help. In one of her emails, she talked about his misconduct in his marriage and other things like that. But his mother came on TV to set the record straight, and she came out and said he's a warrior, he's a good man. And obviously, there's a lot going for Pete Hegseth right now with regards to becoming the Department of Defense head. But he did say regarding the mainstream media, anti-Christian bigotry in the media is on full display, and they can target me, I don't give a darn. But this type of targeting of Christian conservatives, patriots, and everyday Americans will stop on day one at GJT's DOD. So as far as Donald Trump has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by the Ukrainian lawmakers. And this is interesting, especially considering all that's happening right now. But furthermore, Putin hails Trump as smart and experienced person who could bring peace to Ukraine. So they're hailing Trump as a peacemaker right now. Zelensky wants to work directly with Trump to end Ukraine's war with Russia. Well, ending the war with Russia is something that the military should definitely consider. But as far as Pete Hegseth, what did he say in regards to the military and what should have been done by the Biden administration? Let's listen.
One first big question. What's at stake?
What's at stake is repelling an authoritarian who basically is saying, I want the Soviet Union back, I want Ukraine back, I want Kiev back. And then what's at stake is making sure we don't allow it to become an Article 5 larger, broader war than that. So equipping and supplying Ukraine with what it needs faster than we have, and we haven't been doing it. The Biden administration has not been doing it fast enough so that they can further bog Putin down and push him back. It's going to be long, it's going to be bloody, but I think those are the stakes for the United States of America. I would encourage folks to go watch Who is Vladimir Putin on Fox Nation. It's great. It talks about how he views human nature. It's good, and it helps you get an understanding of how he views human nature and how he views his role in manipulating it and putting back the Soviet Union. When it comes to Ukraine, though, Harris, he's going to double down on the tactics he believes will bring civilians to their knees. You know why? He doesn't play by the rules of war. We call him a war criminal, and we do, and rightfully so. He doesn't care. Russia's not a signatory to the International Criminal Court. He doesn't feel any threat that he'll be held accountable. Ceasefires? You know what ceasefires are for him? An opportunity to reload, an opportunity to pick more targets. And he's already said, I mean, this is a precarious part for Zelensky, too. Zelensky did the right thing in saying, hey, any man in this country, stay here, pick up a rifle, and fight. But in the twisted mind of Vladimir Putin, you know what that says? Every man in the country who was a civilian is now a military target. That means any civilian target could be a military target. And women and children that are there are human shields for the men who are carrying Kalashnikovs. Think about it through the psychology of him. So we talk about the targeting of civilians, and rightfully so. He's saying those are now military targets, and he hasn't done it to Kiev the way he's done it in other places like Mariupol. But I think we're going to see that coming because he's bogged down and is going to double down.
So interesting. He believes that Putin is basically going to reload if he has any kind of peacekeeping going on. So what is Trump doing? If Trump makes peace with Putin and Ukraine, then basically their military chief is going to tell him that really Putin's just reloading. He's getting ready to do another war. And eventually, and Biden just authorized Ukraine to use long-range U.S. weapons in Russia, which is basically almost starting World War III. But there are two sides normally in regards to United States politics. That would be the left and the right. And in regards to these left and right, I do believe that they are controlled and they are both aiming towards one goal. And that is going to be to fulfill Bible prophecy. See, here's what we read here. Here's the Pope's prescription for resetting the global economy in response to COVID-19. Well, this is from the World Economic Forum. And remember, the Bible talks about no man being able to buy or sell except for he that has the name or number or mark of the beast. Well, this is going to connect in a few minutes here because the Pope, of course, he's working with all these left-leaning people in regards to the environmental agenda, but he also is working with the right side. Again, you'll notice here, the left and the right, both sides. And he is in Congress here. This is in 2015. You might remember when he came to the United States of America, but both sides wanted the Pope to come. Now listen to this. This is Hegseth, Pete Hegseth. This is going to be your new defense secretary, and also Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation.
The one thing that Davos, you might say, and the people come here stand up for is liberal democracy. So if the idea that's going to be swept under the table is part of the idea, hopefully that's not what he means. What do you mean? What do you think he means by retribution?
Well, it's laughable that you would, or anyone would describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. With all due respect, nothing personal, but that's your part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y.
That was Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts holding nothing back as he schools global elitists gathered in Davos about who the real threats to our freedoms are. Kevin Roberts joins us now with more of his message. Kevin, we were watching, Rachel and I both have the same question. Did they invite you? Did you crash the party? How did you end up there?
Oh, man, they invited me. I never would have gone there on my own volition. And in fact, when the invitation arrived at Heritage, Pete, I told my staff, y'all are playing a joke on me. I've not been invited to the World Economic Forum. But I'm glad I went because just real quick point here, which I know you and Rachel not only agree with, but you really personify every time you're on TV. You know that the average person is really frustrated with what self-appointed elites tell us. And so it's a privilege. It's the greatest privilege of my life to go speak on their behalf.
No doubt. So you were there as part of a panel entitled What to Expect from a Possible Republican Administration. So were you almost there like, were you meant to be kind of like a zoo animal for those at Davos? Like, who are these Republicans that might take power again?
Yeah, that's how they looked at me, especially after the panel. You know, as you might imagine, there were only a couple people who came up and told me they agreed with me.
Sure.
And in fact, it reminded me of when I was the one conservative Christian professor in the entire College of Arts and Sciences at a major university in the Southwest. So I guess to some extent, I've had a lot of experience with that kind of thing. And I kind of relish it because when we get the opportunity, as y'all know, to speak truth to power and to do it eyeball to eyeball, there is nothing more satisfying.
Absolutely.
So basically what's being set up is heroes on the right side to bring in something to protect people from all the stuff that we've been pushed so far on the left towards, which is the LGBT and all that other stuff that they've been pushing into our education system towards our kids. So now we have another people on the right that are going to protect the children. They're going to bring the 10 Commandments back into school. They're going to do things that are going to be good. But if you really look at the situation here, you understand that it's the Pope, and basically all sides lead to Rome.
He was on the record when the team was trying to distance itself from you. I have no idea who is behind it. He put on X. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Do you have a sense of what he likes or doesn't like here?
I think the key thing is that President Trump saw the branding as a liability in the political season. But I also would anticipate moving forward that the president-elect and vice president-elect, with whom we maintain great relationships, will also understand that it's the policy-making season that Heritage and all of the other groups who are a part of our project are built for. And if they're looking, for example, as President Trump said this morning, to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, we know exactly where he can go for that plan. I will say that because the work of Project 2025 represents the conservative movement, it would be very difficult for anybody to implement policies on education, on the border, on taxation, without at least consulting those ideas and people. That's not some arrogant or hubristic comment on our part. That's just the nature of how policymaking works.
Well, so it's just about policymaking and re-education, but of course, when it comes down to the re-education of the people, it is pushing, enforcing the 10 Commandments into schools and things like that are coming to pass right now. There is a close tie from Kevin Roberts to radical Christian groups like Opus Dei. And it's interesting how a lot of these Christian groups are all Catholic. Even what Pete Hegseth is into Catholicism.
That there isn't enough time. But in fact, we are on God's time. And it's trite to say that, but we also know that it's true. And we know that Mother Church doesn't think in terms of days and months and presidential election cycles. She doesn't even think in terms of decades. She thinks in terms of centuries and millennia.
And Mother Church, bringing people back to Rome. Mother Church has taken her time, apparently, to do things. And again, in regards to bringing daughters to Mother, well...
Now more than ever, our nation needs a renewal of the values that this organization promotes and that the Catholic faithful live out each and every day in peace. We love the Catholic people. We love the Catholic religion. And above all, we respect it greatly. As president, I will always support you in your effort to serve our fellow citizens and to lift up all humanity. I will protect the Catholic Church, and I will defend the rights of religious believers of every race, religion, color, and creed.
We're at the Al Smith dinner, of course. Tell me, why did you decide it was important to be here, and what message is Kamala Harris sending by not being here to Catholic voters?
Well, I think you're honoring the Catholic Church, and, you know, I've been a longtime supporter, and I'm surprised she's not here. I think she's the first one in decades, actually, to miss it as a candidate. It was always been a tradition. So I'm happy only that the Catholics are going to vote for Trump now. But no, look, I have a special relationship with the Catholic Church, and I think it was very important to be here.
Yeah, I've been noticing on your social media posts at your rallies, you're playing the Ave Maria. You're posting Happy Birthday, Mary, a St. Michael prayer to ward off evil. Is that telling voters something about your spiritual journey? What is that?
No, I don't think so. It's just beautiful to me. I mean, I look at the whole thing, the words and the pictures. The pictures are so beautiful. And I put up some stuff. Somebody else asked me that same question. Yeah. And it's really that I think it's really very beautiful.
The Pope was asked about your candidacy and Kamala Harris, and he instructed Catholic voters to vote for the lesser of two evils. Who do you think he means and why?
Well, I think he wants them to vote for me, and I stand for really everything that you stand for and that the church stands for, and she doesn't. She's a very different kind of a person. She's a Marxist. Her father was a Marxist and still is a Marxist, and they are not big into religion, I will tell you, and I'm not just talking about the Catholic religion. I'm talking about any religion. The whole Democrat Party's gone really radical left, and I'm the opposite. I am totally in favor of religion, and I also like the Catholic Church a lot.
Let's just consider something for a second. First off, is he not saying that we need to bring in Catholic values? And the Pope, of course, telling people to support the lesser of two evils. Obviously, when Kamala is coming against the Catholic Church, there's not going to be much left, and that is obviously Trump. And then, of course, Trump has all these Catholics in his cabinet as well that want to bring in Catholic social doctrine. In regards to the Mother of Church, which Kevin Roberts was talking about, the Bible talks about her. It says, upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. mother of harlots, implying that she has many daughters, which would be the apostate Protestant daughters. And that's what's going on right now, is they are all uniting together and they have an agenda. Here's Pete Hegseth with the vice president, J.D. Vance. And remember, Kevin Roberts was talking about the policies, and that's what Heritage Foundation is set up for. They're the biggest policy maker in America, the biggest think tank in America. It's in the Great Controversy, it says, under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state, climbing up to be the counselors of kings, shaping the policy of nations. They became servants to act as spies upon their masters. They established colleges for the sons of princes and nobles and schools for the common people. And the children of Protestant parents were drawn into an observance of popish rites. So what happens with the Protestants? They end up not being so Protestant anymore and being brought into popish things. Remember, Donald Trump was a Protestant. He was brought into popish ways. And that's what he says. He's really all for the Catholic Church, and he's pretty much Catholic. And of course, they climb to the counselors of kings. Remember that Donald Trump has 34 Catholic advisors in his last administration. So J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to Project 2025 Architect's new book, which is Kevin Roberts. J.D. Vance and Kevin Roberts are very close. And Kevin Roberts, of course, this giant think tank for America called the Heritage Foundation that follows Mother Church. Now, J.D. Vance has recently become a Catholic as well. The Bible says regarding this great beast, which has a mark, it says that I saw a beast, which is like a leopard, his feet as the feet of a bear, his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So, in other words, the state gave its power to the church, which is pagan Rome gave its power to papal Rome. And this power it had for 42 months, but respecting another beast that comes up out of the earth, Revelation 13:11, this second beast will exercise all the same power, which is church and state power, of the first beast before him, and cause all the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, which is the papacy, whose deadly wound was healed. Consider this very carefully, that Donald Trump is promising evangelicals great power, higher church attendance. So the second beast will exercise the same power as the first beast. And also consider what J.D. Vance said in regards to the usage of this power. Listen.
The thing that we have to take away from the last 10 years is that we really need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power.
Ruthless in regards to our exercise of power. I'm going to share with you a little bit more in regards to this, because this is Revelation chapter 13. Speaking of this beast will speak as a dragon. It looks like a lamb, but it speaks as a dragon. Here's what Trump said.
Is bite back on that. But for 4 years, we went through a great period. You were able to speak. And we're going to make that on a permanent basis. You're going to be able to do it because you're the people we want to hear from, the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis. The people in this room are the people we want to hear from, and they have to have a political voice. You know, if you think about it, you have men, you have women, and you have religion. If you look at it, you have more than the men, you have more than the women. You have such power, but you weren't allowed to use that power. And you're now allowed to use it. I get in there, you're going to be using that power at a level that you've never used it before. It's going to bring back the churchgoer. I mean, you have to see. I don't like the charts when I see charts where they're going in the wrong direction.
Straight out of Revelation chapter 13, he spake like a dragon and exercised all the power of the first beast. The dragon gave him his power, his seat, his great authority. Remember, this is an image of the first beast, a copy of the first beast that America is going to make in Revelation 13, chapter 11. Keeping that all in mind, in Great Controversy 442, it says the prediction that it will speak. Remember, Trump said you're going to speak as a dragon and exercise all the power. You're going to have great power, Trump said, of the first beast, plainly foretells the development of the spirit of intolerance and persecution that was manifested by the nations, represented by the dragon and the leopard-like beast. So the first beast, very image-like, very copy-like. That's what the Bible is teaching, and that's what we're witnessing taking place right now. And of course, that power is going to use force. It will force things into the schools and other things like that. It's going to force worship, and those who don't go for it will be persecuted.
I supported school prayer, very important, school prayer, which we unfortunately had to force into some schools.
The only way to start the return to moral order in this country is by force. It's the only way. It's the only way. It has to be by force, at least for a time. We have to regulate morality by force, at least for a time. Literally the only solution. And people have to start to realize that it is the faith in God, Christian understanding of morality, it has to be the foundation. And this is not going to be done by choice. It's just not at first. It's not going to be done by choice at first.
And according to the Spirit of Prophecy, the force is the last resort of every false religion. And of course, this is how the papacy worked during the Dark Ages, during the Crusades. They pushed people to worship according to their dictates, or else they would be put to death. And during that time, there was probably 50 to 150 million martyrs, including men like John Huss, William Tyndale, who translated the Bible into English. These people were put to death because they wanted the people to remain ignorant. They persecuted those who would bring the scriptures to the people. Catholic social teaching is fundamental, the Pope says, to tackling world issues. And he says the Pope said this work of healing, which, remember the deadly wound, healing, is facilitated through the close related principles found in Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church. He listed the principles of the dignity of the person and the common good. Now I'm going to go into this a little bit more with regards to the common good, because he also says in the Catechism, in respecting religious liberty and the common good of all, Christians should seek recognition of Sundays and the Church's holy days as legal holidays. Now, this is your Catholic Social Teaching, Part 68. There's actually a chapter entitled Rest from Work, which is actually to seek Sundays and the Church's holy days to be recognized as legal holidays. In other words, Sunday laws. That's what is part of Catholic social teaching. That's what the papacy wants in America right now. And J.D. Vance, who is about to become the Vice President of the United States of America, has said this. He said, "My views on public policy," remember they shaped the policy of nations, the Jesuits, "and what the optimal state should look like are pretty aligned with Catholic social teaching." Catholic social teaching. What is Catholic social teaching again? We just looked at it. Sunday. Sunday is part of Catholic social teaching. Sunday is for the common good of all. So therefore, Sunday laws being part of the state is actually aligned with what J.D. Vance would have us believe. In fact, J.D. Vance attended a biblical lawmaking academy at Steubenville Conference. You can see him in the picture here. And in this conference, they talked about Sunday laws. You'll notice the background behind J.D. Vance. Well, here's one of the speakers right here speaking. Listen to what he had to say.
The public ordination to God is something that has suffered badly in recent decades, but it is easily restored. And I would say it is enacted and continues to be on the books in many different states in the way of blue laws, of Sabbath laws. If you've been following our disputes, we've been proponents of Sabbath laws. A restoration of the Sabbath is the most concrete and material gift that we can give to our nation.
And that's what J.D. Vance says in regards to Catholic social teaching, Sunday laws, and even Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation says Sunday laws are going to be made.
Our recent explication, or one recent explication you might have seen, you might have even signed, called for, quote, restoring to our nation a proper public orientation toward the virtues of patriotism and courage, honor and loyalty, religion and wisdom, man and woman, the Sabbath and the sacred, and reason and justice.
Again, Sabbath laws, Sunday laws coming. You'll notice in this NBC article, they're talking about Barry, who wrote part of Project 2025, and he said he worries that God ordained the Sabbath as a day of rest. And until recently, the Judeo-Christian tradition sought to honor that mandate by moral and legal regulation of work on that day. They're talking about legal regulation on Sunday, Sunday laws. It's right in your newspaper. It's front page news for today. Seizing your Sunday. Christian nationalists in Project 2025, radical scheme to remake your weekends. Heritage President Kevin Roberts, there's no doubt that Trump will implement Project 2025. Project 2025, which means Sunday laws. But also, regarding the mark of the beast, the papal mark, what do they tell us? Of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change, Saturday to Sunday, was their act, and the act is a mark of our ecclesiastical authority and religious things. So she claims to have changed Saturday to Sunday. Furthermore, she also says Sunday is our mark of authority. The church is above the Bible. And this transference of Sabbath observance is proof of that fact, transferring the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. The Pope knows that the Sabbath is on Saturday, and she claims that to change that is a mark of her ecclesiastical authority, but furthermore, that those religious bodies that go along with her are accepting the mark of the papacy. The beast is the papacy. And since it's the mark of the papacy, it is also the mark of the beast. And to enforce Sunday laws by law, forcing people to be unable to buy or sell on these days, we're going to have a CBDC. We're going to have a lot of things implemented that are going to force people in line with the Catholic social teaching. But again, Trump, remember, he shunned Project 2025 is ridiculous. Well, now he's staffing up with them.
And really, not that at Heritage we feel either entitled or defensive about Project 2025. We just are resolute because it's now policy-making season. This is something that we've done for 44 years, since 1980 with Ronald Reagan. We understand that, of course, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance will make all the decisions. Having said that, Project 2025 is the single greatest, biggest scope of personnel and policy work that's ever happened, and we're very proud of it. It represents several dozen million Americans, if you think about the 110 organizations who are part of it. Once again, totally up to the president-elect and vice president-elect. We operate in service to them and to the American people, but ultimately, to get to the heart of your question, Joe, the American people have won here, and we look forward to playing whatever role, formally or informally, that we can to support that.
Well, did you anticipate the backlash? You mentioned Ronald Reagan. The mandate for leadership was something that was actually pretty well received as a policy paper. It helped to put Heritage on the map. Was this supposed to be another version of that, or sort of a quiet policy paper that you would provide whatever the incoming administration would be?
It is very much designed, as all of our previous projects have been designed, which is to be of service. And if I had to predict, the next administration is going to be filled with excellent men and women, not just because of the work we did, but most importantly because of the great acumen of the president-elect and vice president-elect and the team that they're already assembling.
We learned one name just over the weekend. It's Tom Homan, who's going to be the border czar, as Donald Trump is referring to it. And that was from a post on Truth.
Tom Homan is also a visiting fellow at Heritage. He's a good friend. I was texting him earlier, congratulating him on that. And look, the most important thing, forget Tom's professional affiliation, forget that he was a Project 2025 author. The most important thing is that he is aligned not just with President Trump, but also with the American people who want to bring an end to the ridiculous disorder on the southern border. Tom's going to do a great job there. In other words, Joe, neither today nor a year from today am I going to be sitting in my office at Heritage sort of keeping score about who's in the administration and not. That's not why we do what we do. We exist every day to be of service to the American people and to the administration. For that matter, if the Democrats had won, and although it would have been very surprising for them to have called us and say, you got a name for so-and-so agency, we would have done that too. This is the whole point about the work that Heritage does.
Here's another one. Holman, which is going to be the border czar. So this war has to do with secularists, which are going to be those who oppose church and state unions, and of course, far more than just getting the Mexicans out and rounding up the Mexicans and the other foreigners. Trump is explaining that his militaristic plan to deport 20 million people, 15 to 20 million people. He's planning to actually deport people with the military. He's planning to bring the military into America with men like Tom Homan and also, of course, Pete Hegseth. And so this is actually going to be a holy war, they say. Yeah, some people are wondering about Pete Hegseth with regards to his tattoos on his chest. Those tattoos are a symbol of the Jerusalem cross, which was used during the Crusades, but it also has been adopted by the Jesuits. Rand Paul gets lit up for dissent against plans for military to round up illegals. Well, it's not right. It's illegal to actually bring the military onto American land. And once the military is on there, you're not going to be able to fight back. You see, they push you all the way to the left. They bring all these people into America. And so they create the problem. And now they're coming up with the solution. And what is the solution? We're going to have to get rid of some of these people. And the way in which we get rid of these people is to bring the military onto our own land. To get rid of them, we're going to round them up using the military. Hegseth has several tattoos he's known for. In regards to these tattoos, he has another tattoo in Matthew 10:34, which reads, "Do not think that I've come to bring peace on the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." Pretty obvious right? What's going on here with regards to where they're pushing. I want you to just hear regarding his book and the crusades that he talks about with regards to American crusades. Listen.
It's all about education. What are the kids learning in media, in school, middle school, high school, colleges? We make a lot of assumptions about where our culture is, and we're wrong. And if we don't crusade a holy war, a righteous holy war for freedom, we're not going to save it. And thank God we have Trump now, but we got to do it for the next generation. America has the top economy and military in the world, but our cultural and educational institutions, America's soul, have succumbed to leftist rot. Our time calls for an American crusade, yes, a holy war for the righteous cause of human freedom.
Wow. And he's in charge of the military. You have to remember this. This is the same thing that happened during the Dark Ages. And this symbol has been adopted by the Jesuits. There is a war being made. And remember Revelation chapter 12:17, they made war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. It's a dragon. But the dragon is using several powers, whether it be the beast of Revelation, the first beast of Revelation 13, or the second beast of Revelation 13 that spake like a dragon. This is an image to the beast. When you talk about an American crusade, it was a Roman crusade. So now you're going to have an American crusade. Now you're going to have something that looks like Rome and what happened to Rome during the Dark Ages. This is an image of the first beast. It's a copy of the first beast. And that's the name of his book, American Crusade, Pete Hegseth. But this symbol has been used for several years, way before the Catholic Church even existed. You'll notice this little cross on the forehead here. It's been used for centuries. It dates back to the ancient times of ancient Babylon. And I'll come to this because this is not something new that has just been used. This is not referring to Christ. This is referring to an ancient religion. And many people use this cross. And this was used by Constantine, of course, in this sign, conquer. The nominal conversion of Constantine in the early part of the 4th century caused great rejoicing to the world. And there's great rejoicing going on in apostate Protestantism and apostate Protestant America right now. See, cloaked with a form of righteousness, the world walked into the church. Now the work of corruption rapidly progressed. And the final events are going to be rapid ones. Things are coming to pass very, very rapidly right now. But continuing in Great Controversy 53, regarding Constantine, we are told in the early part of the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine issued a decree making Sunday a public festival. This is what Constantine is well known for throughout the Roman Empire. The Day of the Sun was reverenced by his pagan subjects. It was honored by Christians. It was the emperor's policy to unite the conflicting interests of heathenism and Christianity. Is there anything different that's happening today in America? Are we not about to unite heathenism and Christianity? This is the cross of Tammuz here. This is the same cross that was used by Constantine, and this goes back to ancient Babylon, long before Christ's crucifixion. This cross symbolized the Babylonian god Tammuz, who was killed by a wild boar. In his honor, women spent 40 days weeping for him, the origin of where you get Lent. That led to Easter. Therefore, the ashes placed on the forehead or third eye is not a biblical tradition. Rather, it's symbolic of the sun god, whose name in Greek is Apollo. So it's called the mark of Tammuz, which has to do with the sun god. The mark of the beast is Sunday. So the mark of ancient Babylon is Sunday keeping, and all this Sunday keeping comes from sun worship. Again, the Trinity got its start in ancient Babylon with Nimrod, Tammuz, and Semiramis. Semiramis demanded worship for both her husband and her son, as well as herself. She claimed that her son was both the Father and the Son. Yes, he was God the Father and God the Son, the first divine, incomprehensible Trinity. That's from the Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, page 51. Now, when you consider this and keep this in mind, this is why they would tell you straight up that Sunday was a day exalted among the heathen, being a day on which they worship the sun. This is Catholic reasons for keeping Sunday, they tell us, because it is a day dedicated by the apostles to the most Holy Trinity. Sunday is dedicated to the Holy Trinity. Why? Because it comes from the time of Nimrod, Tammuz, Semiramis, sun god worship, sun worship. They pushed it on the people through war. King Clovis in 496 AD, he was baptized. You'll see this symbol they used, the fleur-de-lis. That was a symbol of the Trinity. You can see it used by King Clovis here in the picture. They use it with the triquetra on stained glass and windows in the churches and stuff like that, the fleur-de-lis. And also the triquetra together and the triangle. These are all symbols of the Trinity. 508 AD, Clovis defeated the Arian Visigoths and drove them into Spain, and it was called a theological victory for the Bishop of Rome. Why was it a theological victory? Well, it had to do with the Trinity. According to A.T. Jones, he says, thus the bloody course of Clovis glorified by Catholic writers as the triumph of the Orthodox doctrine of the Trinity over Arianism. This was the victory over the Visigoths, the triumph over the doctrine of Arianism with the Trinity doctrine. And the Emperor Justinian 30 years later made a decree, and he said, concerning the most exalted Trinity in the Catholic faith and providing that no one shall dare to publicly oppose them. This was state law. Sun worship was forced by law. Babylonian sun worship, and of course, the day dedicated to the Trinity was Sunday. Furthermore, in this Justinian code, it tells us that the emperors, Gratian, Valentinian, and Theodosius, to the people of the city of Constantinople, we desire that all peoples subject to our benign empire shall live under the same religion. That the divine Peter, we should believe that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit constitute a single deity, endowed with equal majesty and united in the Holy Trinity. This was the law of the land. Furthermore, it says, let those who do not accept those doctrines cease to apply the name of true religion to their fraudulent belief, and let them be branded with their open crimes, and having been removed from the threshold of all churches, be utterly excluded from them, as we forbid all heretics to hold unlawful assemblies within cities. If, however, any seditious outbreak should be attempted, we order them to be driven outside the walls of the city with relentless violence. So no assemblies. Were you a Sabbath keeper back then? No assembly for you. Did you not believe in the Trinity back then? No assembly for you. They were forbidden. Not only forbidden, but you were forbidden to even try to go to their churches and try to share with them regarding the truth about the Father, Son, or the truth about Sabbath worship. Those things were forbidden. And they put people out of the synagogues, and they would also persecute them to death. And no new thing under the sun. The thing that has been is the thing that is. So therefore, the same history is about to repeat itself. As the Bible says, there was a beast, and there will be an image to the beast. Babylon is fallen. History repeats itself, and that's what we see. Again, 50 to 150 million martyrs of the church, persecuted all in the name of Jesus. Nothing new under the sun. We're going to see the same thing taking place again. Here again, we bring you back to Pete Hegseth's tattoos, Deus Vult. This phrase is a closing sentence of his book, American Crusade. And it was used during the Crusade. It means God wills it. And the will of God was that they were going to go destroy these other nations that didn't agree with them or didn't go along with them. And of course, they went to Jerusalem. That's where the Crusade started. Again, Deus Vult, mess with Christianity and we'll hit you so hard, your ancestors will feel it. That is the idea behind Deus Vult. Chi Rho, he has the Chi Rho, it says on the top here, sticking his penchant for religious symbolism in his tattoos. Hegseth tattooed the Greek letters Chi and Rho on his upper arm. Some people call it the Cairo, Chi Society. These are the symbols, P and the X, Rho Chi, and then a 33 number, the highest number in Masonic religion. But of course, this was a symbol that Constantine conquered with. And of course, in this sign, conquer, and you know how the rest of the story goes. It was about Sunday and sun god worship. Let's listen to what the Catholics tell us themselves.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Mr. President, you need to become Catholic, and you need to convert now. About 4 years ago, Church Militant produced a Vortex in the heat of the 2016 campaign, where we compared Donald Trump to Constantine. Constantine, of course, was the eventual sole emperor who defeated Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge just north of central Rome on October 28th, 312 AD, which happens to be the same week as this year's election. The victory paved the way for Christianity to be freed from the persecutions and eventually become the religion of the Roman Empire. Contemporary historical accounts of the battle note that the night before the resounding and somewhat unexpected victory, Constantine received a vision where he was told if he would paint the Kairos on his soldiers' shields and breastplates, victory would be his.
So what was he told to paint on the So what was he told to paint on the soldiers' shields and breastplates? Kairos, Chi Rho. That's your Chi Rho, the P and the X.
Kairos are the first two letters in the Greek alphabet of our Lord's title, Christ. The accompanying message was, in this sign you shall conquer, in hoc signo vinces. Even though there are some points of discrepancy in the two major historical accounts, that's the blended summation, and it makes the point. Constantine's victory required an act of faith from him and was promised by heaven if he obeyed. When Constantine marched on Rome, it was anybody's guess who would win that battle. Maxentius had already successfully fended off 2 attempts by others to take his throne and was well prepared to defend it a 3rd time. Had Maxentius won the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, there's no telling what the fate of the church would have been, or eventually Western civilization. Yes, the battle was that important. Everything hung in the balance. Fast forward 1700 years. Another Constantine is bearing down on the capital of the empire, and a ferocious force intent on defending and advancing the depravity of its own worldview is primed to wipe him out.
History repeats itself. That's why there is an image of the beast, a church and state union, and of course, Kairos, which points to the mark of Tammuz, which is Sunday worship. It's really about that Trinity worship. And of course, there was an event in 2017 celebrating the end of the Reformation. They called themselves Kairos 2017. Kairos, Chi-Rho. And then furthermore, Kenneth Copeland and others were there. They were talking about making connections, building bridges, coming together, putting differences aside, putting divisions aside, and uniting to help heal the wounds of the past, as it says down here. What does Revelation 13:12 talk about? He exercised all the same power of the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And then furthermore, they talk about it as well. This unity is not about doctrine, they say. It's on spiritual unity. And again, as it says down below, to bring healing and revival to the nation. The Great Controversy talks about this on page 444. To secure such a union, the discussion of subjects upon which we are all not agreed, however important they might be from a biblical standpoint, must necessarily be waived. But there is a certain doctrine that they won't waive. There's 2 of them, Sunday and the Trinity. You'll notice on this page, Wittenberg 2017, it talks about again the beauty of a healed, mature, united body in Christ. Furthermore, they say the wounds in the body of Christ remain unhealed until we address the historical and present realities of our contempt, our anger, and even our murder of one another. Yeah, that's how bad it got during the Dark Ages. There was a lot of murder. Remember, 50 to 150 million people? That should be addressed. And of course, the Pope has been apologizing, trying to heal the wounds of the past, heal the wounds of division. Division is a wound, and they basically are healing that wound, and they're uniting. But in regard to this unity, this is what it says on the same website. It says, our hope for Christian unity is rooted in the love of the Trinity, in love for who they believe to be God. Check out the video that I recently did in regards to Twitter and X.com, because it's all connected. And remember, they have a Department of Government Efficiency. They want to redo the education system. It's all about bringing the 10 Commandments into schools. I'm going to do another video on that shortly. But this is what we're told in Great Controversy again, is the question of enforcing Sunday observance is widely agitated. The event, so long doubted and disbelieved, is seen to be approaching, and the third message will produce an effect which it could not have had before. We are certainly at that time where this is all taking place. And the third angel's message is about to go forward with great power. Everything is being fulfilled that we've been told about before. And thank God that his word is good and his word is true. Let's get the messages out to the world. Let's help them to know what's really happening in this world right now. There is an important message to go to the world. And I understand that persecution is going to come, and many are going to fall away because of persecution. Stand strong. The trials of your faith are for the working of patience. And there's going to be a lot of them. You're not going to be loved by everybody when you share this message, but understand that it is an important message for the people this time, that people are going to be lost because they're following the beast and its image. They're taking the mark. They're not worshiping the right God. They're worshiping the beast. They're worshiping the image. They're worshiping the Trinity. They're worshiping gods of Babylon. And let's give them a call, a loud cry. Come out of her, my people.